Colors of Paris. This is a worker placement game for 2 to 4 players set in old Paris where we are all painters. We collect colors, mix colors, and we splash them on canvases, and we hope that we can do that in a way that gives us more points than the opponents are scoring. 2 to 4 players worker placement game. I played it with 3 players once, and then mainly as a 2-player game. I tried once with my kids, Amelia and Luisa. Luisa didn't hate it, didn't love it, she just wanted to do other stuff, but Amelia and I kept playing it over and over and over again because of a problem. A major problem that I encountered with this game, which is I can't win. I just can't win. Amelia won every single game. And I got into that mood of like, hey, why don't we play once more? Let's try one more time. Because I thought, I can take her now. I see where I can do this or that thing better. And she kept doing something else better. I can't win. Anyways, as a parent, you gotta deal with that dichotomy, with that contradiction. You're so proud that they're beating you, but you also want to win from time to time. Man, gone are the time when I will let her win, and I think maybe soon we'll get to the point where she lets me win. Now that's grim. So, one interesting thing that makes this different from a lot of other worker placement games is that we have a wheel, a board with the different actions and a variable number of slots around it, and this wheel will usually turn by one click at the end of each turn. Which can be modified, so the number of slots that match different actions will change from turn to turn. Some actions will not be available at all in certain turns, and also if you play with fewer than 4 players, there will be tokens that go on some of these slots, covering them, again, reducing the number of slots available. And it does feel that the sense of scarcity, that everything is difficult to get and only for limited amount of time, that is very important in this game. You're gonna have a personal board where you're gonna store the paints that you collect. You're gonna spend actions to collect the primary colors, and then you're gonna spend action to mix these primary colors into more fun ones, so that blue and red become purple, and these are the two become orange, and then you can make green, and you can also even mix the 3 secondary colors to create the legendary black. Wow. There's 6 black cubes in the game. Each is worth 6 victory points, which is considerable. One way the game can theoretically end is if somebody collects the 6 available cube. I still have to see that happening. There's another end game condition, which is the one that ended absolutely every game that I play, which is the first player to complete 2 paintings. There are canvases available there. You'll spend actions to collect a canvas. As you can imagine, later you will have actions that will let you place cubes on the canvas. You can also use white cubes, which are wild, so they can just cover any space. And when you complete a painting, suppose that those spaces on that painting, on that card, have been completed, you flip it face down, you discard all the colors with the exception of the white ones. You keep them there as a sign of shame, of slop you wear, because white allows you to complete a painting faster, but also means that you worked on the cheap and a little too quick, and the contrasts are not as sharp, and so that will give you a penalty. That will reduce the number of victory points that the card is worth. So the game can end when somebody collects the 6 black cube. I still have to see that happening, or when somebody completes 2 paintings. At that point, you score victory points from your paintings, minus penalties for white cubes, plus points from black, and the player with the highest total wins the game. You start the game with 3 assistants that will go on the board, reserving actions for you. And we talked about the board here that you use to store a cube, but also tells you how effective your actions are. So, for example, if I was to take the action of collecting of collecting primary colors right now, that action will give me 3 of the primary color I'm collecting. Later on, I can spend actions in cubes to improve that, so now the same action will give me 5 primary colors. If I was to mix a yellow and a red right now using the mixing colors action, that would give me 2 orange. If I was taking the same action later, that would give me 6. And when I am transferring colors from my personal board to the canvas I'm working on, or canvases, you can work on multiple at the same time, then again, when I take that action of transferring colors to the canvas, again, this is the number of cubes that I can transfer for that action. So you definitely want to improve your capabilities as soon as possible. Also because when you get to this space here, you can choose to collect a token that gives you 63 points, or you can choose to collect an extra assistant. You start with 3 assistants, and you can have up to 6 if you collect all of these bonuses. And that's what I try to do very often, and by the time I have all of my assistants in a line, Amelia has won the game. One thing, yeah, the game can feel a little bit rushed if somebody really puts their mind to completing those paintings as fast as possible. It's not that hard to complete 2 paintings, and there's that. You gotta take that into account. I've seen some people online suggesting that maybe one could experiment with playing 3 paintings as an end condition instead of 2. So that's maybe something to look into it. So these are some of the general concepts. Oh, and also if you get all the way to the end, you either collect a 10-point victory token if you had collected an assistant here, or if you had collected a 6-point victory token, you flip it to the 10 victory point side. Now, as for the actions, so we have some actions here on top of the wheel. They never change. They are not affected by the position of the wheel. Getting this action here gets you a white cube and also the first player's marker. This is so important because the first player, guess what? They go first. And so they start resolving actions first. When you resolve an action, you lay down the meeple so you know that the meeple has been used. And the timing can be of the essence, especially when it comes to this action, which lets you copy the action of a meeple that is still standing. So, if you blocked an action that I really wanted, I go there and I'm first player, then the first thing that they do is I'm gonna use that to copy that. If I don't do that, then and you go first, you immediately do that, so that is not useful to copy that anymore. So the timing and the order in which the meeples activate can be quite important. This, remember at the end of a turn, the wheel would usually move by 1 tick, but if somebody reserves that action there, then they can choose to move the wheel by 0 or 2 ticks instead, which can be amazing or catastrophic. Because again, you may be able to block a player from completely taking the action that would allow them to win the game. So the game lasts 1 or 2 extra turns, and that may change the outcome. Not if I'm playing against Amelia, that never works. But theoretically, it seems like that could work. Thus, you collect the white cubes, and this is the only action on the board that everybody can take. That space accept as many meeples as you can possibly fit. The other actions, limited number of slots, and you cannot place more than one of your meeples on an action, even if it has multiple slots. So, the actions. This action here, you collect a canvas from the ones that are available there. You see also there's another icon. There is an expansion that lets you use extra cards that will give you extra abilities, and basically you can buy those abilities if you can reserve that action there. There's the action of mixing colors, and there is one slot like this for all the secondary colors that you can produce. There's the action of improving your abilities. So for example, if I take that action and I spend 2 cubes, any 2, that's how I improve my situation there. There's the action of collecting primary colors, so then I simply take them from the supply and place them in my area here, again based on how many of those I have. We have the action of mixing together a green, a purple, and an orange to make the legendary black cube. Again, more mixing, improving another part of the board, this time the canvas, so you get a sense of how it works. For a studio painters, there are remarkably few options to actually paint. There's only that slot there. And sometimes it's where there's only one space, sometimes it's where there are none. By manipulating where this one goes, you can cause a lot of pain and grief to people that have been dutifully collecting and mixing paints and they just don't get to place them. Yeah, it can be a little harsh. This game can be a little confrontational. So that's the general idea back where we started from to see the place for the first time. So this is how you place. Collect your workers. Place your workers. Resolve the actions, but hey, here there is a twist. The workers that are on the board, on the lower side of the wheel, they don't all come back. One of them you will keep there for the next round. I read and reread the rules because I don't remember seeing that in other worker placement games, and it looks like that's my understanding. It's how you play. That's how we played at least, which adds a whole other kind of interesting problems to deal with. Because not only am I taking the action that I want to take now, I also have to figure out what the action will be there because one of my meeples is tied there. It doesn't seem to be optional. You gotta leave it there. And so I want to make sure that I'm taking an action that I want now, that I need now, and I'm not wasting that action when next turn that meeple will be on the board. So there is that interesting element there also. Place your workers, resolve the situation, resolve the actions, pick them all up with the exception of one that stays in the bottom side of the wheel if you have any. Play until somebody completes 2 canvases, and at that point the player will be the winner of the game. No, that's not the case. What am I talking about? No, that's not the winner of the game. That will be the triggering condition. I guess I had that little moment of misspeaking because that's likely to happen. The first player to finish the second paint usually wins the game, unless you manage to finish your second one the same round. And again, that has been a strategy of my daughter, finishing her second one, making sure I don't finish my second one that round. So, that's the idea. Colors of Paris has a lot more thinking in it than I expected. I see there are basically 3-4 main actions. Sure, you can mix different colors, but it's mixing colors. Sure, you can collect different primary colors, but it's the same action. With just such few actions, I thought the game would be pretty basic. You know, family, worker placement, my first worker placement. But oh boy, was I in for a surprise. When I started really getting deep into thinking about the actions I'm taking now, the actions that I'm leaving available, the actions I will have next turn, and what if my daughter changes the wheel and so now it doesn't move or moves by 2 ticks. There was a lot packed into that. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that it's a game that feels like it really worth thinking and planning and strategy within a basically very simple, very minimalistic almost engine. Also, you have different ways in which you can play. You can add those extra cards that I mentioned that will give you extra actions, which you can buy by spending white cubes, which gives white cubes more of a role. Otherwise, they don't do all that much because you don't want to paint with white. Also, another thing that you can have is some tiles representing different painters. Each painter has a unique power. The powers don't all seem to be equally powerful. They seem to be some more, some less powerful. So maybe you can agree there. Hey, if I get this guy, you'll get the guy that has a matching power, the similar power on different colors, as opposed to a different power which may be more powerful or less powerful. So there are just different things that you can do. But the basic idea is one that I like very much. Again, especially at 2 players, it pleased me that way, satisfied me that way. There was a little bit almost like a chess match feel, in which I could really tell what the options were for my opponent, and my opponent could also do the same. Mind you, my opponent was much better than me consistently, but still, it was nice to get into that that flow, that feel, that really feeling engaged to a range of options that I could easily grasp and that I had to, of course, digest. With 3 or 4 players, things will change because there's going to be, of course, a lot more things that you can possibly consider. And there's that probably changed the feel of the game. But I like the very strong chess-like feel with 2 players. Now, and that may be too much, maybe too much for some players. I really see how somebody may get frustrated by the thinky element, by considering everything, but you neglected that small thing, and somebody clicks the wheel one way more than you expected, and your plan goes completely off balance. One thing that I'm a little bit mixed feelings about it, and I hinted at earlier, is the end condition. I mean, you just have to accept that the game is a strange hybrid between engine building and rushing to the end. Usually the two things don't go well together. When you spend time building an engine, you really want to enjoy that engine. You want to create those power moves. And that's probably my problem. I spend too much time doing that, and by the time it's time to cash in, Amelia has won the game. And so that may just be, again, my personal feel, but it feels like it's a little too rushed. And again, when I realize that's happening, then I start manipulating things. I try to prevent Amelia from winning for as long as I can, so that meanwhile I'm doing my other stuff. The fight for the first player token can be intense. So there is that. The only thing I have a little bit mixed feelings about it. I don't think it's gonna be a crowd pleaser. I think there will be a lot of players that will be annoyed by the fact that if you build your engine, you lose the game. If you rush to victory and everybody does it, then maybe just becomes a little bit of a bland race to finish. Again, if you find that to be a problem, maybe do try that option that I've read about online. Try to with 3 paintings. I don't think that will make the game too long, and if it does, I don't know, try something else. As is, Colors of Paris to me is a satisfying 2 players game. It's a game with a lot more thinking, a lot more complicated reasoning. I think she will do this and I'll do that, but that will cause me to get stuck later, so I can try different. Because of the thinking, also I like it with 2 players games, so we don't have analysis paralysis, or not too much of it. Again, I'll put that caveat there if you're playing more players, but as a 2-player game, I definitely recommend it to people that are looking for a game that is simple to play but hard to master. At higher counts, well, I'm not qualified to comment on that, so I guess I won't. But definitely, the way I played it with 2 players mainly, I enjoy Colors of Paris.